Hashem Yisrael, Hashem Yisrael, Hashem Yisrael, Hashem Yisrael, Hashem Yisrael, Hashem Yisrael. Bezrat Hashem, the shiur should be L'Refuat Moreinu v'Rabbeinu Harav Menachem Yoshua ben Leah Rezel V'Achola Shlomit Bat Chaya B'toch Kol Shar Cholei Yisrael. This week, as we enter into Parashat Shmini, we again end a certain process of waiting for the revelation of Hashem. And in this parasha, we want to try and understand the opening pasuk to the parasha and what at the end brings Hashem into the world. And so the parasha opens up with the words Vayihi Bayom Hashmini. The pasuk emphasizes this idea of the 8th day. And they begin with the word Vayihi. There's a new number in the world that was never there before. And so says the Sefat Emet, Ita bat Torat Kohanim. Ita bat Torat Kohanim, in the Sifri they bring in a midrash about this first pasuk. And the midrash says, Vayihi bayom hashmini, sha'ayta simcha lefanav bamarom, kiyom shenivreu shamayim ve'aretz. Says the Sifri, why does the pasuk open up, Vayihi bayom hashmini? Says the midrash, the same way that Hashem creates the world, He has a tremendous simcha when this new idea of the 8th day comes down to the world. Hashem is just as happy as the creation of the world. Continues to explain the Sefat Emet that both in the creation of the world it says Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker, Yom Echad. That in the first day of the creation we see this idea of Vayihi. Something new happened. Same to Vayihi Bayom Hashmini. So this first pasuk says that there are two different creations in the world. There's Bri'at HaOlam in Sefer Breshit that go from the 1st to the 7th day. And as if Hashem stopped and waited for thousands of years for the 8th day. But Hashem Himself does not create the 8th day in the creation of the world, but He waits for these last moments that Am Yisrael themselves as a nation, as a whole, after completing the Kelim, the Mishkan, the Korbanot, everyone's involved, everyone's anticipating, everyone's waiting, and then the Chidush comes to the world. Not only is there 7 days, but there's also an 8th day. But what does this really mean? The difference between 7 days and 8 days. We'll try to understand through the Sefat Emet and through the Maharal Miprag. Says the Sefat Emet, Bayom Hashmini, Shehu lemala miderech hateva, Shehu sheva yemei breshit. Says the Sefat Emet that the 7 days are the creation of nature. And within nature, there's only place for 7. which means that the 8th day is above nature, is uplifted from the reality. So the Maharami Prague says that we have to try and understand what do the numbers 6, 7, and 8 really mean. Says the Maharami Prague, any one of us who know how to play the game Monopoly, know how to play the game Yahtzee, we all throw the die, or the dice. And if any one of us look at the dice, we'll see always 6 numbers. Because the reality of the world work within 6 elements. Up, down, left, right, front, and back. That's nature. The chidush in the creation of the world is not only is there 6 days, but there's a 7th element. So where is 7? Says the Maharami Prague, the 7 is the ability to find depth within the world. Meaning there's nature, but in everything in nature that the physical eye could see, the spiritual eye understands that there's a 7th element that gives life to the 6 parts of nature. Similar, we see the same idea in the Aron. The Aron itself has 6 elements. It's a square. And into it we put the luchot. The luchot are the 7th dimension. The place where there's life within life. Where there's more than the physical eye could see. So then the question is, where is 8? If the 7 is the ability to find what gives life, the heart of the person, the heart of the world, the root of the tree, what's hidden from nature is 7, so where is 8? Says the Sefat Emet, says the Maharami Prague, the idea of 8 is to be able to go above nature, to go beyond reality. And so, Vayehi Bayom HaShmini, the 8th day is so unique that suddenly there's a new dimension in the world that never was there before. The dimension of being above, of being beyond nature. And the question is, what does it really mean to be beyond nature? And I think the answer for this, we could see 22 psukim later, when Hashem comes down. So in Vayikra Perek Tet, Pasuk Kav Gimel, it says, Vayavo Moshe ve'Aharon el Ohel Moed. Moshe and Aharon enter into the Mishkan, anticipating the ability to bring Hashem back down into the world. And what's the next word? Vayetzu. They enter and they leave. And so Rashi says, Lama nichnesu. Those 2 words in Rashi are such a deep question. We know, according to the Gemara in Masechet Yoma Daf Nun Daled Amud Bet, that bi'are kanit, if anyone enters into the Mishkan for no purpose, chayav mitah. If someone enters into the Mishkan without a specific goal, he is chayav death, chayav mitah. Says Rashi, Vayavo Moshe ve'Aharon vayetzu. So why did they go in? And I think the answer is that Moshe and Aharon, as personal people, are part of nature. And they go in from the level of nature. Or maybe they're the dimension of the seven. The people who are able to feel the depth of reality, thinking that that will bring Hashem back down. But Hashem does not reveal himself on this 8th day through nature. Vayetzu vayivarchu et ha'am vayira kvod Hashem el kol ha'edah. They leave out to the nation. They leave themselves. They leave the nature of being just a single person and connect to a nation, and Hashem reveals himself. He says, what does Me'ala Teva really mean? Teva is when you live for yourself, when you're self-centered, and you could be on a highest level in your personal world, but that's not Lemala Mina Teva. That's not the Yom HaShmini. Yom HaShmini is Vayetzu, from the nature, Vayivarchu et ha'am. They brought this new idea of Lemala Ma'ateva, and then Hashem was revealed. And I think that many of us are restricted to nature. Everyone has his personal world he lives in, his personal needs. But that one moment when someone's capable, when someone takes the time not only to think about my world, but about someone else's world, when someone takes his hand out and gives tzedakah, not so that someone else could see, but so that somebody else in the world will have what I think that I deserve, I give to somebody else. That's lemala min hateva. That's where someone becomes so much bigger than just another person in the world. And I think one place, and maybe one person, that could uplift this idea to the highest level is Rav Kook. First of all, Rav Kook as a person, someone who was able to not only see himself and not only see his generation and not only see the time that he was living in Eretz Yisrael, he was able to live for all of the future, to see concepts, ideas that we need so many years later. But in the Rav Kook Sidur Olat Re'ayah, in page 271, he brings in an idea that is so mind-boggling, that brings this idea to the highest level. And he brings in from the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, Amar Rav Ada bar Ahava, Minayin she'ein hayachid omer kedusha. The Gemara in Brachot asks, where do we learn from that a single person cannot say kedusha? Shne'emar v'nikdashti betoch b'nei Yisrael. The answer in Masechet Brachot is that kedusha belongs to B'nai Yisrael and not to a person. So the Gemara says that a single person cannot say Kedusha because Kedusha does not belong to a single person. But the Rav Kook takes this to the highest level. And he says like this, Ikar tochen ma'alata Kedushahu. What is Kedusha all about? Shitromem ha'adam, uplift himself from the nature, from reality, from being self-centered. Lasum kol megamato ume'ayanotav lo letzorchei atzmo. He says naturally, everyone cares for themselves. A baby who is born knows himself. He does not know the bigger picture. And when Abba and Ima say to their child, no, the kid doesn't understand because he's not yet above nature. But some of us stay on that level of self-centered living, which doesn't enable us to live for other people, to care for other people. And I think the chidush of Parashat Shmini is that Hashem creates a world that stops at 7. And he says within nature, people could reach a level of 7. People could reach a level of finding depth in their lives, in the world. But as long as someone is still in only Breshit, in the creation of the world, he can never ever reach the level of above. Because nature teaches you to live for yourself. The Yehi Bayom HaShmini is the ending of Bri'at HaOlam, where people realize the ability of us in the world is to be a person who goes above nature. And our ability to go above nature is Vayavo Moshe ve'Aharon Vayetzu vayevarchu et ha'am. And then the Yom HaShmini is complete. That moment that Moshe and Aaron leave themselves as holy as they are, as great as they are, and take the time to be a part of Am Yisrael outside and be a part of a bigger picture of a nation. We bring a concept to the world that we control nature and nature does not control us. Should be zoche be'ezrat Hashem, vayhi bayom hashmini, to realize that Bri'at HaOlam does not end on the 7th day, but it ends on the 8th day, where whenever in our lives we're able to stop living for ourselves, we bring a new ending to Bri'at HaOlam that Hashem left for us through tshuva, through tzedakah, through tefillah larabim, to recreate a new creation to the world and to make a world that understands the true meaning of Kedusha. Shabbat Shalom.